Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is GamePlan 2022. We want to discuss the majority decision that was made by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, who just unlocked the deadlock that was there between the members of parliament belonging to the ODM, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance side, as well as the Kenya Kwanza side. And to do that, I have with me Dr. Fred Ogolla, who's a governance expert. Karibu sana to the studio.
Thank you very much, Eric.
And remember, you can be part of this conversation by SMSing us live at 22047. Our Twitter handle is at TV47KE. Mine is at Eric_Munene. I'll be glad to interact with you going forward. Now, Dr. Fred, according to the over 1 hour ruling that Kenya Kwanza, that was made by Moses Wetangula, he said that Kenya Kwanza now has 179 members in the National Assembly against Azimio's 157, knowing the spirited efforts that the Azimio la Umoja MPs had put up to prevent him from being Speaker of the National Assembly. Do you think this could have gone any other way?
Yes, it could have gone to the side of Azimio, because I'm sure that I told you before that there are two ways to look at a majority. Mm-hmm. So first, there's what is called majority on paper. And if you look at the Political Parties Act, Azimio had the numbers, and therefore they were supposed to be given the majority. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at majority regarding what's called on the floor of the House, now, of course, you know, by the fact that Moses Wetangula was elected Speaker in the floor of the House, yes, it means that Kenya Kwanza rules the majority in the floor of the House. Mm-hmm. Now, in the stomach, of course, you could say that people follow different interests. Mm-hmm. And on the stomach, of course, you can see that Azimio did not have majority because government has machinery, you know. And of course, that means that people act through their stomach. I'm being told stomach has ears, that ears cannot be bigger than the stomach. So that's a thing, those are the scenario by looking at. But if you look at the whole thing here, Moses Wetangula was supposed to make what is called Solomonic decision today. Mm-hmm. But the fact that members of parliament fought after his declaration shows it's not Solomonic, because Solomonic was whereby two women were fighting, and the leader comes with a decision that makes everybody happy. But let's go back in history, because you are a good student in strategy must be good in history. In 2002, when elections were held, when ODM had majority, 2007. Yes. Remember that time when that happened, ODM had majority, they were able to actually elect the speaker from ODM. Mm-hmm. And now when they come to the issue of declaring majority and minority, Kenneth Marende was expected to make a ruling the same like Moses Wetangula was to make today. And he declared that I'm not a speaker of ODM. He said, I'm a speaker of the National Assembly. Mm. So today, Moses Wetangula did not play the role of being the speaker of National Assembly. He sort of played the role of being the speaker of Kenya Kwanza. And therefore, he ruled in favor of Kenya Kwanza against the law, because there's a Political Parties Act. And we say that whenever there is any other act that is standing against the Constitution will prevail. So the Political Parties Act was supposed to prevail today, rather than him declaring that the Kenya Kwanza has majority, and that saying that Azimio do not even have members of parliament in the House. So what is the implication of that? Mm-hmm. The implication of that declaration is that if it's left like that, then we kill Political Parties Act, which the same member of parliament who are there, of course, you know, we had 67% of member of parliament coming yes. back. Mm-hmm. They passed the Political Parties Act. So how did they pass Political Parties Act? Then today they kill it using the ruling of Moses Wetangula. So what we foresee is that Azimio will go to parliament, will go to court to challenge that ruling. So that will be the first battlefront between, for example, Raila Odinga's coalition yes. and that of Ruto. I'm sure this is something you're going to see. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know very well that when it goes that to High Court or any other court, the ruling will be that Moses Wetangula's ruling was unconstitutional, because we are not using standing orders of parliament. The mistake which took place that when they revised the Political Parties Act, they were supposed to change standing orders in parliament. And Moses Wetangula used the standing orders in parliament to make that declaration.
The Constitution of Kenya 2010 is actually supreme, and any other law or act that comes between it, before it, the 2010, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, of course, prevails.
Yeah.
Article 108 of the Constitution provides that there shall be a leader of the majority party and a leader of the minority party. Now, the leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or a coalition of parties. And then the minority leader, that's the leader of the minority party, shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the second largest party or coalition of parties. These are some of the things that he cited.
Yes.
And he said that a lot of members of parliament, a number of them crossed over after elections and joined Kenya Kwanza.
Yeah.
Then where is the bone of contention in that?
Of course, the bone of contention is that their days for collapsing has not come. You know, Eric, if you ever applied for a divorce, you'll discover that you cannot be granted your divorce the very day you apply. Actually, the Kenyan law, every country tend to postpone the date so that you can make over with each other. So there could be a chance still after you go the other side, after maybe before 60 days elapse, people can make up with each other. So they tried to extend it. So that day had not reached. So I'm telling you, on paper, they were still in Azimio, those MPs who moved. On stomach, they went the other side. And on the floor of the House, they cross over. Maybe the only wisdom we can say came from Moses Wetangula was by realizing that, why are we postponing what has to happen? You know, sometimes you can postpone what will have to happen.
Yes.
So maybe according to him, as the Speaker of National Assembly said, no, we are postponing this thing, even if it is 30 days, we know, because they elected me as Speaker, so their majority did not play in the floor of the House. Why are we wasting time? And I told you the other dilemma could also be, you know, the law is also very clear that the person who becomes minority in the House will chair PIC and PAC committees.
Yes.
Now, how do you want to have opposition not chairing these committees that they are in government? So, you know, there are sometimes that Azimio wishes to have majority, but the implication could be that they cannot chair PAC and PIC because those one actually can go into the minority leader. So
which
those
begs the question.
Yes.
Which begs, sorry for cutting you short there,
Yes.
Dr. Fred, which begs the question, both PAC and PIC, Public Investments Committee and the Public Accounts Committee, those are two oversight committees.
Yes.
They have historically been a preserve of the opposition. That is what is known.
Yeah.
So then, how does now that make them lose on that opportunity of chairing those two committees?
I think that's why maybe it is something that they needs to be amended in the standing orders on how this is done. Actually, this is not just in the National Assembly. It's also extending to the County Assembly. For example, Nairobi, where Sakaja is having is having minority on his party, and ODM has majority, and actually ODM has elected a speaker that is ODM. Now this creates another challenge again to him. So should the MCAs that are going to take these committees chair PAC and also chair PIC? Those are challenges of chairing those committees. And now, the other thing, by the way, Eric, which is even more interesting, let me ask you, if Azimio is given majority in the House, they look like the leader of government business in Parliament. You understand?
Yes.
And if that happens, don't you think that Kenya Kwanza can say they did not implement their manifesto because actually Azimio took over charge of government business in the House? And they can say they did not have majority because of the confusion which was there, and therefore it will be better, according to me, sometimes to say, Western Sokola could have done ruling by saying, in the paper, these people have it. Okay. But the way we want to do business, let us just allow Azimio to act like they're the majority, but the fact is that the minority. I think they could have felt a little better about that by saying, acknowledging numbers is there, but to transact business in Parliament for the sake of the whole country, why don't we allow you to be an opposition? And therefore, opposition, you will be able to assume 1, 2, 3 roles, and we should take 1, 2, 3 roles so that we can be in charge of the government business in the House. This is a serious dilemma, and I can tell you, every time our constitution is tested, you find there's a lot of hollow, or if you like, conundrum in the Constitution. And I think somebody will find a way again how to do revision. So we should never be afraid of revising the Constitution. But I'm sure he took advantage of the fact that there's a bit of confusion in all this, and he took it to his side. Of course, I'm sure that as those of us who think otherwise, that the president met with him on the night before this ruling, and it was in the headlines today. If the headline was reporting the truth, then maybe the president told him, Moses, you know the promise we have, you just have to rule this way. So that's what everybody's assuming, that is the decision that the president told him that you do. Then he flew to Ethiopia.
And we'll talk about that issue, about the president making an impromptu visit to Parliament buildings.
Yeah.
But I want to take you back. Something very interesting you bring up, Daktari, the issue of the leader of government business in Parliament. In 2007, there was a deadlock between Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga, when Raila Odinga then was the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And Kalonzo Musyoka was the Vice President. And there was the issue of who now is the leader of business in the House. Of course, the Constitution 2010 changed that. Now that is the work of the majority leader. But how do you suppose that can be remedied? Do we have those duties passed on now to someone like the Chief Cabinet Secretary and have him sit in Parliament?
I'm just trying to tell you that what helped that time was a bit of some goodwill between Raila and Kibaki. Remember, there were so many issues there because Kalonzo came in as vice president and Raila came in as prime minister. Then we have the president. First of all, in the red carpet, who was superior to each? And remember, that was a serious debate. It was a debate for almost 4 years. Even when they go to a function, who will speak first before the other? But of course, they found out that it was better if they gave this one to Kalonzo to handle it, because they say your work is to supervise, because that was the role of the Prime Minister, do the supervision. But on this one, there's still a confusion. Even if you say it's supposed to be done to the Chief Cabinet Secretary, you saw the role which was pointed when President Ruto appointed Mudavadi.
Yes.
It was not clear whether his role will be in Parliament. And I'm sure that is now
and
where...
that's why I've asked you that.
Yes.
How can it be remedied?
I think the remedy here should be that let us do give and take.
And this is I'm just looking at a situation where Azimio, in Moses Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly, had he ruled that actually Azimio forms the majority in Parliament.
The implication could be very clear that ODM takes over the leadership of government business. And I told you the problem could be now, somebody can say, how could we succeed if you're the leader? But let's go to another country. You go to the US. Remember that the leader of government business is not from Joe Biden's side. It's from the other side. Right. And that normally creates whereby now, even if you are in opposition and government, you find that the government crosses over to the other street, negotiates, and try to persuade the other one to pass bills, for example, the fiscal policies and the rest. So somebody has actually positioned by saying it can be a good thing because now we have opposition inside the government, but through Parliament, you understand? But someone says, of course, it can be used as an excuse by saying you are the one in charge of government business in the House, and therefore all failures of the things we did was because of you. But I'm sure that lawyers are thinking about it, and there's still a conundrum about it. So it's left, whenever there's a conundrum, it is left to everybody's interpretation. And therefore, who has power? At the moment, His Excellency William Ruto has power, and he controls these houses. So most likely, you'll find decision going Kenya Kwanza way all the way. You see, it's already happening, that every decision, a turn harm this way, Kenya Kwanza has their way. And it is still continuously going that way. So I don't know what to do, but the point is that it could have been better now for clarification. And I told you, Azimio will go to court, and the court will do a ruling, and maybe you can get Solomonic ruling from court because we can't get in Parliament. So those jabs in Parliament, they're not Solomonic. They are just jabs.
All right. I want us to talk about that famous visit, that impromptu visit by President William Ruto to Parliament. And I want us to look at this piece by our very own political affairs reporter, Elizabeth Mutuku.
This is how President William Ruto sneaked in Parliament and caught the speakers of National Assembly and Senate, as well as members of both houses, by surprise. The duo and members rushing to where he was set for lunch. This sending mixed signals among members of parliament, some fearing the legislative arm of government might lose its independence with current moves by president. However, Kenya Kwanza allies James Gakuya, Richard Yegon and Nimrubai insist parliament will continue to operate independently and there is no cause for alarm over president's visit.
Kuna independence katikati ya the arms of government. Executive inahitaji bunge, bunge inahitaji executive. Wale watu tunaweza sema mawacho kabisa ni judiciary. Wale hatuwezi sema president atakamana nao karibu kwa sababu yao ni sheria kabisa. Na sheria haihitaji president aanze kutafsiri, imeandikwa. Lakini hapa mpaka president aniongeleshe nimpitishie Hustler Fund. Kwa sababu ilikuwa ni jambo aliambia wananchi na yeye hayuko mbunge kupitisha, kwa hivyo atahitaji wa mbunge.
Hiyo ni njia ya kielelezo kizuri kwamba wakati wowote anaweza ingia hapa na hakuna mpaka, kwa sababu yeye ashakuwa mbunge hapa, ashakuwa mbunge kwa tamu 3 mfululizo. Kwa hivyo hii bunge hata kuja kula pamoja nasi hapa, kuja kusalimiana na watu wa staff hapa ni jambo muhimu sana. Kwa hivyo mimi ningetaka kusema kama kuna watu wanaona hiyo ikiwa jama ya aina yoyote, mimi kwangu sio jama.
There's no difference. If we meet anywhere, people always have speculations. And today, maybe you know Ruto is the president himself. He's a workaholic. And he wants even the ministers, which he has, you know.
On the other hand, the Azimio la Umoja members say the move by President Ruto might render the House powerless and more so tilt the voting pattern, especially by members urging President to draw the line over the two arms of government.
What Kenyans actually need. So I cannot guarantee we will have independent parliament. We've seen it, and even we are seeing it tomorrow. I'm expecting Deputy Speaker even not to declare Azimio as majority. The Speaker, sorry.
The mandate is well clear and well entrenched in the Constitution. And I don't think the President wants to untwist the legislature to have his way through here. This is a house controlled by the rule of law. Let us stick to that. The rule of law, let him have his line, we have our line, and we move on.
The president's visit comes a day before National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula is expected to make Solomonic ruling over majority and minority issue between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio One Kenya. The visit sends different signal on leadership style, with President unofficially visiting Parliament for the first time since promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV 47 Pan Biddings, Nairobi.
Well, and of course, about 24 hours later, Speaker Moses Wetangula ruled that Kenya Kwanza forms the majority side of the National Assembly. That visit there by President Ruto, impromptu visit, as our reporter Elizabeth Mutuku tells us, do you think it was significant in any way? Do you think it affected today's ruling?
I would say it's symbolic, but I wouldn't call it significant. Because, Eric, let me tell you what. This thing called independence is not supposed to be something written independent. Are all members of parliament independent thinkers? When they go to debate matters in parliament, are they going to be independent? Because you say, even if he wanted to meet Moses Wetangula in a bar, he could meet him. All these things can be like, we are trying to read too much into it. What I know very well that even if he wanted this, a phone call could do it. So sometimes we're overreading. What we don't have is an official information on what did he tell Moses Wetangula. We should react on that because we should not just be jumping other things. You know, if we just talk about, for example, as a governor expert, you can be in the boardroom. In boards, normally we have independent directors, non-independent directors, executive directors, and non-executive directors. But I actually tell all board members that even if you are not called independent director, whenever there's any decision to be made, you should be independent. So I don't like MPs giving excuses that now when he comes here, will not be independent. Because the time they were in parliament, the president was in Ethiopia. So how does the president stop you from thinking? People are just saying that since the Constitution, 2010 Constitution was done, president don't visit parliament. But maybe he just came to have a cup of tea. We don't know what's happening, but I'm sure His coming the day before always sends perception that he's trying to send a message. But I don't want to read too much into it because he was there. I've not seen when having a private meeting with the speaker, unless maybe you have information. But if he went there for lunch and shake hands and walked around with them, the parliamentarians still have the sole responsibility to Kenyans that they must ensure that parliament is independent. But let me just extend this again. The other day I saw that when he came to parliament, judiciary paraded themselves before parliament to receive him. Again, I saw so much noise, people saying judiciary has been bought by the president. Now, let me tell you what, some of these things are not sustainable. You know, if you are controlling any arms of government, in the end, there are some decisions they'll make which are to their own self-interest that will start hurting you. Then start complaining. So I'm telling the president, if at all there is anything, I don't have information, but if there is any need to control any arms of government, they need to be there. Eric, even in the house where you are, you need your child to disagree with you so that you see a different perspective. You even need your wife to take a different perspective. So let's allow all these institutions to give us their independent view over everything. It is good for the president when he proposes something that parliament can thoroughly interrogate it and give him feedback honestly and justifiably. The same thing to judiciary. Whenever there is anything serious in judiciary, we also need the judicial independence because they advise you. But if you think that you don't need their advice, is when you can take over. But at the moment, we are reading too much. Because I remember that judiciary has a role to go to parliament to receive the president. I don't know whether they are supposed to parade themselves, whether that's constitutional. Maybe they chose to do so, but they should be in parliament, somewhere in the gallery. They have a place where they need to sit. But of course, people said, why do you parade yourself in front to meet the president? Are you receiving the president? He has people who can receive in government. So what I'm trying to say, that visit is supposed to be seen just as a courtesy call. Maybe he knew he was going to be away today, and he was trying to talk to them so that maybe they see he's concerned about parliament, so that when now passing some of those bills will start coming. For example, you know, ministers need to be passed.
Yes.
And he's more concerned about the ministers being passed. PSs have to be vetted. Maybe those ones he's concerned more than the speaker's ruling today, and we are looking too much, because I'm sure if you wanted to meet the speaker to turn his thoughts, that could have happened maybe in State House. That could have happened elsewhere. Why in Parliament? He wanted all the MPs to see him. And I think it was symbolic that I'm with you. Please support my ambition, I think so.
You bring up something very important. You talk about the president nominating his cabinet secretaries, and of course he has his concerns. So far we have seen that the ruling Kenya Kwanza can flex its muscles and have its way on a number of things.
Yeah.
Once the committee on appointments is formed and vets the CSs, are we likely to see any unexpected outcomes?
I don't expect so. You know, as I told you, when you make a turning point, since it began, elections were there. Chebukati declared His Excellency William Ruto president-elect, isn't it?
Yes.
People contested, went to Supreme Court. Kenya Kwanza got their way. You understand? Eric, I told you before, most of these things are won before the war begins. As a strategist, wars are won before they begin. By winning that ticket and getting the ticket declared the winner, we go to Supreme Court. The winning is upheld. We went to electing the speaker. The speaker is Kenya Kwanza. Today, we are expecting, that was the only thing we expected actually Kenya Azimio to get without much struggle. They lost the majority thing, you understand?
Yeah.
What we are likely to see is we are going to walk that road going down, isn't it?
Yes.
And I don't expect something that they are going to reject. And in any case, I don't see any need of rejecting any of those people from the Azimio side, because it is his government. He knows whom he wants to work with. He has majority in parliament now on stomach, isn't it? Let them just declare those people become CSS. Let him see the consequences, if at all. Because I'm sure that if you look at them, somebody says, there are two things. Somebody has said, this I saw it on Twitter. There's something trending that we have members of parliament that looks like a list of people who should be in prison, isn't it? Now, somebody also said that the cabinet secretaries also have, some of them nominated, have some serious issues. You can see them right now, some of them being cleared just before they are being vetted. You can see all those things happening, where a court case against this person has withdrawn. So you can see this trend. this has been won before it begins. I expect that all the CS nominees will be upheld, and they are going to be sworn in. In fact, some of them are talking like CSS already. I'm sure you must have seen celebrations, people congratulating them. I think we have actually gone against our constitution. Eric, if I've been nominated as a CS, I don't accept you should be able to congratulate me, but after Parliament has confirmed me is when you should congratulate me. Now, imagine you have been congratulated, even your Twitter handle has changed to CS Agriculture. Are you seeing how we have gone this route? According to me, if we are following the law, we're supposed to be patient. You've been nominated. So just keep quiet. Don't even, I'm sure some of them are having a ride of a CS status. You understand?
Yes.
Then once the Parliament has passed it, then you have been given official appointment, then we should do what? Congratulate you. Remember the current president, when he was declared elect, people, so not so many people congratulated him, but after Supreme Court upheld his win, people were now free to congratulate him. Then he was inaugurated. More congratulations. Why are we congratulating people who have not been passed in Parliament? It means that you can see that route working. We are a rotten society. And I usually tell you, everybody pretends here that they abide by the law, but everybody is breaking the law.
Okay.
Why do people congratulate you when you have not been actually confirmed as official CS? Do they have certificates of appointment? No, but they have been CSS. Okay. I saw even the other time when the president went to Homa Bay, I had Eliud Owalo standing before everyone saying, thank you very much, Mr. President, for making me your CS, making me. I think nomination is the word.
Okay.
Yes.
And I want us to take a look at some feedback I'm getting here. Yeah. Lona says, like me, no need, because someone will just see someone and it's over. I don't know what she is responding to. Let me have a look at she's responding to a story that we did. 95% of Kenyans do not report crimes to law enforcement due to lack of faith in the criminal justice system. Thank you so much, Lona, for watching. Then we have Josephine Jerry, who's saying, if Moses Wetangula had ruled differently today, would he have issues in his tenure as the Speaker of the National Assembly?
Of course, what the point here is again the issue of Solomonic rule, isn't it?
Yes.
After Solomon ruled, there was no fault. And the Solomon normally find a way to at least settle two conflicting sides. And at the moment, Moses Wetangula has made us go to court rather than solving the issue in the House amicably. You understand?
Yes.
So it's like, again, Parliament, which says they should be independent, forget about the president. People can blame the president. But Parliament is now putting themselves before judiciary to declare matter as Parliament. You see the confusion now? So if Parliament was supposed to sort out their matter, judiciary could not come in. I can swear that Raila Odinga or someone in Azimio will be able to take this matter to court for determination in court. And that now means you are subordinating Parliament to judiciary. If judiciary declares that Moses Wetangula's ruling was unconstitutional, what is going to happen to Parliament? Can you imagine Parliament where laws are made is being declared by a court of justice that they are unconstitutional and they're out of order? What are the scenarios now there, Eric? You see, now that's why we wanted Moses Wetangula to settle this matter in a nice way. Maybe you could have taken time to persuade these MPs and reach some conclusion, then said, this is the way to go so that there's give and take on the issues of seats.
Yes.
Because about seats, it's about committees being formed, because the majority minority declares which seats and committees are taken by which side of the coalition. He could have asked Azimio, why do you want majority, yet you know very well you're not in government? You could have asked these guys, why do you want to chair these committees, yet you know very well they should be done by opposition? I agree. If it's about the seats, he could have made declaration about those seats and say, even if this is majority, this is minority, this is the way to go. Okay. I'm sure they could have gone home saying this is the way to go.
All right. Well, the Speaker also stated that the Registrar of Political Parties, Andrew, to file responses to his office in regard to the membership of the coalitions quite late, hence making it difficult for him to verify the validity of the report. And that's because Andrew had actually said that Azimio has the majority. Does that argument by Moses Wetangula, in your opinion, hold any water?
No, it doesn't hold water, because what was he supposed to read? If you get advice from the political parties act saying, this is the majority. Why late? What was late there? And I'm sure Imilti was appointed as a speaker. He knew the next thing he's going to do was about that one. So maybe these things, reach out to someone and give a call and ask. That is, for me, I think that's the most pedestrian argument I've ever heard from somebody who is a lawyer. I think lawyers normally argue much better than that.
All right. Today we've also done a piece on the Bungoma senatorial race. And I remember talking to you off camera, you said you know a bit about that race. You have your eyes set on that race. You're a person of interest. Or rather, you know a person of interest in that race. I'm sorry for that. Looking at how things are currently, there's some friendly fire between UDA and Ford Kenya. Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah is now set to be the leader of the majority party in parliament. And part of his roles will be to serve as a spokesperson for the Kenya Kwanza coalition and also, present some issues and coordinate their respective legislative strategies. Is it likely to do that in a fair manner? Remember, this is a member of parliament from the UDA, and now they cannot even sort some small issue like having who is going to represent that coalition in flying the flag, or rather in settling for who is going to inherit Moses Wetang'ula's seat. Do you think it's going to be all rosy moving forward?
In fact, let me tell you what, Eric, the election for 2027 is being won today or is being lost today by either of the coalition. And let's talk about historical here. Moses Wetang'ula was leader of minority sponsored by ODM and NASA. The likes of Orengo went to parliament and removed him. And when he was removed, Orengo replaced him. And those people now are talking about how Azimio lost. The likes of Orengo, they started cooking Raila's goose very early. So what was the role of Orengo holding the seat of minority on behalf of Moses Wetang'ula when they were losing Bungoma? So you see some of these things now, how Ford Kenya, Amani Coalition, will work with UDA in how everything goes in all these elections taking place and all those political posts being distributed and all the promises which were made being fulfilled. That may determine how people believe. But so far, give it to him. President Ruto has tried to keep his word to all the political people he promised. What we are waiting for are Kenyans, whether he's going to use these people now to give us our promises in manifesto. So in Bungoma, Moses Wetang'ula was the senator. Bungoma people are now saying, excuse me, we gave you this thing and you left it. Do not come to tell us whom to elect. And I think that's fair. And then, of course, Imani Ichung'wah is trying to get a UDA to get the seat. Ford Kenya won the seat. ODM also said somebody, and there are some independent candidates. For example, I'll mention the one I know. There's somebody called Enoch Opara. For him, he told me, Fred, I'll vie for this seat on independent. And I asked him, why independent? And he told me, it's independent because we have discovered that to be a senator, if you belong to a certain coalition, you cannot check the other party. And the argument is valid, by the way, because Enoch Opara says that if you get a governor of Bungoma who is coming from Ford Kenya, then you get a senator from Ford Kenya to check a governor of Ford Kenya. Is it possible? You're in the same party and you're disagreeing. So I think that senatorial seat may need somebody who is independent, who is not in any party, because then he is now a senator of the people of Bungoma, so he can speak on behalf of the people of Bungoma. Because now these senators, look at the role of senators. Tell me which county where a senator put a governor in check to avoid corruption. That's why you saw my Twitter, I put myself as shadow super senator. Because now when I go anywhere, I tell people that you as a governor, your senator is not checking you. Look at what is happening in Siaya at the moment. James Orengo is the governor of Siaya. He has said he's going to investigate all the theft that took place under Rasanga in millions of shillings, 400 million shillings, I don't know, 500 million shillings there. Yes. Now, when he was a senator, what was he doing? Because they were in ODM together. Rasanga was in ODM. He, as senator, was in ODM. How does an ODM senator check on ODM governor? So, Eric, literally, they are already in one house, isn't it? So I'm sure Kenyans, what we need to do is that maybe in the future, we need to be very clever by separating parties from development. If a governor is coming from this party, it could be better to get a senator from the other party. And I'm sure it's hard to determine that before the election. But Bungoma people now know the governor from this party. I think they don't have to give the senator to the same party, because then those people become, let's say, accomplices, isn't it? Partners in crime. And when they are partners in crime, they continue working and everybody continue crying. I never had any single senator. Remember Nairobi, Sonko was the senator. Yes. He was putting Kidero under pressure with so many investigations. I'm sure I remember them, isn't it?
Yes.
But he had an interest of becoming a governor. But when he became a governor, who was the senator? Sakaja, isn't it? They were coming from more or less the same coalition, isn't it? Did you hear Sakaja opposing seriously what Sonko was doing? No, because they ran almost together and won the thing. Actually, Sakaja was on the court of Sonko trying to become the senator of Nairobi. Now he used his popularity now to become a governor. Now at the moment, something very interesting is Nairobi, because the governor is from UDA and the senator is coming from ODM. Now Sifuna has a role to really check properly this guy, because they're not the same party, and one is in government, that one is outside government. Those scenarios are more interesting in Bungoma, and I urge Bungoma people, please select a senator who will do their work of oversight on your governor. But if you select people to reward your same party, you will get what say people are getting now, and maybe they continue getting. Because now, ask me even if I instant, do you think Oburu Dinga can check on Orengo? And if Orengo steals anything, do you think he can check him? Those are the scenario we have to look at now. This is by elections coming to rectify where things went wrong.
But I think on the issue of party politics and party loyalty, some members of county assemblies in Nairobi, I think Embu and Kiambu would like to disagree with you. They did what they did then, and it's all there. In as much as they belong to the same party as the chief of those particular counties. But let's switch gears now. Now that you brought the issue of theft of public resources, today something very interesting happened, and some people might read a lot from it. Amos Kimonya, interestingly, it's happening on the day that the former majority leader, Amos Kimonya, on the day that Moses Wetangula declares that Kenya Kwanza forms the majority, and of course now Kimani Ichung'wah is going to be the new majority leader. Amos Kimonya, the former majority leader in the last parliament, is not really off the hook.
Yeah.
Of course, he was aligned. He was an ally of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Azimio la Umoja flag bearer Raila Odinga. John Oluke switched sides, also went to that other side today. A ruling has been made that his case also, he has a case to answer in the NCPB case, the maid scandal. And then, quite surprisingly, Ferdinand Waititu is one of the day's readers.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? Because I've seen a lot of conversations online and some conspiracy theories, of course, people coming up with all manner of reasons why this has happened. What do you make of that?
The trend is very clear there, Eric. You see, the denominator is very clear that if you are in Kenya Kwanza, you seem to be forgiven in your cases. And if you're on the other coalition, you seem to be castigated. People say that when Uhuru Kenyatta was president, for example, Akana Babayao, that is, what is the name?
Ferdinand Waititu.
He was always in trouble. So even you saw the other thing when Deputy President said it on the day of inauguration that, let me tell you what, whenever you are any friend of Ruto, you are always in trouble. I think he said it in the glare of the public. I think I remember that. So this is the same trend that your friends, when you take power, you let them off the hook. And the other persons whom you thought they had issues, now you can now bring them under investigation. But of course, the case of Amos Kimonya will be declared free because I understand a little bit. I have some information about what is happening. Those could just be witch hunt and also trying to put people under check. You know, when you start saying so-and-so you have a case, the thing is that Moi used this thing very well during his rule, that when you mention that somebody has a case, then they go quiet on you. I think I can also say here that what Moi used to do, if you're a member of parliament and you're very powerful, you could get a loan from, for example, one of the commercial banks. Once you get a loan from commercial banks, you'll just enjoy the moment. But if you go and say, Moi has done this bad, you hear you're in the front page of newspaper saying you're bankrupt. So, for example, you can see, I saw another case also saying that Tuju needs to be taken to auctioneers because he borrowed a loan of 1.6 billion.
I don't want us to venture to that.
So I'm saying
we could be in trouble here.
It was a strategy. I'm saying it was a strategy being used that whenever you want to bring any information, people bring something against you. So you could see all this social media propaganda going on, and so is have a case. All these have been used very well, effectively, to do propaganda against people. But what we know very well is His Excellency William Ruto said that now judiciary will be used to clear cases which are authentic. Deputy Gachagua said that some of those things were just witch hunt, they were not cases. And I'm sure that's what people are trying to clear, people who have been tainted, or at least there was not enough evidence to prosecute them, and also people who are believed to have been in favor of the government, to try to see whether they have a case.
But, Doctor, as we wind this up, there's of course this thing called the cost list, and
Yes.
Of course all these cases are scheduled.
Yeah.
And I know I've asked you what you make of it, but when you say the judiciary really is not independent, when you say, or rather when you try to suggest that really the tentacles of the executive have spread deep inside the judiciary, don't you think that is fair? Very briefly as we finish.
By the way, let me tell you that there's still no evidence that judiciary has gone to bed with government. They are just insinuations about it, isn't it?
Okay.
People are still just referring to the fact that they upheld the win of Ruto. But look here, there are some other things judiciaries have done which shows a bit of independence. Okay. Now money has been thrown at them. We are adding your budget. All these are carrots. But let me tell you, Eric, if you're the head of state, what will you do? You'll try to ensure the judiciary works in your favor. You try to find parliament works in your favor. But we have not seen anything showing that judiciary has turned away. But I've told you, in the end, even if there are people think so, you'll see some rulings they'll make which are against him. Remember, even Uhuru had some ruling that surprised him. BBI ruling surprised him. So William Ruto will also have some rulings which will surprise him. Okay. Remember that you cannot buy the entire judiciary. There'll be some judge somewhere, some magistrate somewhere who do not care about all allegiance and just make a ruling. So we can foresee those happening.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fred Ogolla, for coming. Always a pleasure having you on board. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to viewer for watching Game Plan 2022. Unfortunately, in the interest of time, we have to come to an end of this show.